But Dallas was dealt a pretty tough blow yesterday. So Trevon Diggs, Pro Bowl level corner, has gotten better every single year since he came out of Alabama. He's improved, in my view, certainly last year and even in the limited time this year that he got through only 2 games of his 2023 season, improved drastically as a pure cover corner. He is done for the year with a torn ACL. He suffered it at practice. I haven't gotten the information in terms of whether it was a non-contact injury or contact injury, whatever the case may be, but Trevon Diggs done for the year. Just sucks. The good news for Trevon, before I even move to the Cowboys, good news for Trevon, and of course, thoughts and prayers to him, speedy recovery, and you hope he's back in 2024 even better than ever. He's a guy who's probably not even moved in his prime yet as an athlete, and so, listen, it'll be, of course, a tough recovery ACL, but so many athletes have come back from the ACL, particularly guys who are, at a younger age, so I have no doubt, and certainly thoughts and prayers to him for his recovery and his mental state, which has to be tough given the expectations coming into the season. So, listen, I think Trevon's gonna be back next year, but all the very best to him and to his family. For the Dallas Cowboys, of course, is a tough blow. This is your number 1 corner. This is a guy who, again, as I've talked about, has improved drastically in pure man-to-man coverage. I used to, and it looks like I won't get to do this year, but I said any time that he gambled on a play, maybe bid a little bit, he did it in 2021 a lot, did it some last year, not as bad, but he bited a play here, try and get an interception, give up a big play down the field, and I'd sing one extra line every time he did it of Kenny Rogers' song, The Gambler, because that's what I call him. I call him The Gambler. He gambles at times. But it's part of what makes him great. It's like the blessing and the curse. And so, again, the good news for Dallas, though, thank God if you're Jerry Jones, and I've been critical of Mr. Jones, but the man has had a solid offseason, aside from drafting Mozzie Smith in the first round. It was a horrible pick. But the point is, you traded for Stephon Gilmore from the Indianapolis Colts, a team that's in complete rebuild. They're going to try and get some picks, in terms of giving up some of their star veteran players. You're seeing them potentially doing it right now with Jonathan Taylor. Jerry Jones gets Stephon Gilmore, who just a few years ago, or 4 years ago rather, in 2019, that may feel like forever ago, but 2019 with the New England Patriots, Mr. Gilmore won Defensive Player of the Year. Last year, had an excellent season with the Indianapolis Colts. Had a few interceptions. So he's fully capable of being Dallas's number 1. Reportedly, according to Jane Slater, to Clarence Hill in Dallas, Deron Bland, who's their nickel corner, is going to move now outside as their number 2. And they're going to move Jordan Lewis into the slot where he's normally comfortable. So Dallas, if there was, obviously you don't want to ever lose a player, particularly a star player due to injury, but if you were to lose one at any position, Dallas would probably choose corner because they're that loaded, they're that deep at that position. However, I was thinking about this. If Deron Bland isn't as comfortable outside as he is inside of that defense, if it doesn't work quite as well, because obviously Gilmore being your number 2 was scary, that's obviously off the table now. If Bland doesn't play particularly well on the outside and he needs to be moved back inside, Jordan Lewis is too small to be your number 2 corner. Dallas, and Jerry Jones in particular, because of a good move he made, and I give Jerry credit where it's due. Remember, Jerry just so happened to trade for a coveted third-string quarterback who used to play for the San Francisco 49ers. His name happens to be Trey Lance. Couldn't Jerry call one of these organizations and say, hey, I like a Minnesota, for example. If Minnesota loses this weekend to the Chargers, they're done. To start 0-3 is basically a death sentence in the NFL. It's darn near impossible to make the playoffs with an 0-3 start. And Minnesota defensively hasn't looked great. Again, I'll predict their game against the Chargers later. Say for the sake of conversation, they lose to the LA Chargers, and Kirk Cousins, who's on the last year of his deal, the Vikings look to move. Because they're like, Kirk's probably not going to stay. We're probably going to go after a quarterback. It's the very reason I said, hey, the Niners, I think, should have conversations with the Vikings before he was traded to Dallas to trade Trey Lance to the Vikings. Why? Well, Trey Lance has ties to Minnesota. I believe he went he played high school football there. You've got the situation where you have Justin Jefferson, you have TJ Hawkinson, you got a solid running game, solid offensive line. Jordan Addison, the kid out of USC, looks like the real deal. You got the pieces, good offensive coach and Kevin O'Connell. Like, you've got the pieces to say, hey, let's try Trey Lance out for 10 games. He gets a 10-game tryout. We've got the small sample size in San Francisco, but this is now year 3 for Trey Lance, which is typically a prove-it year for young quarterbacks if they haven't proven themselves yet. We put him in the starting lineup. We put him amongst these playmakers we have. See what happens. If he shows up and shows out, great. We build around him. If not, okay, no harm, no foul. We draft a quarterback. Like, it's a win-win situation for Minnesota. And for Dallas, could they nab one of their corners potentially? One of their number 1 or number 2 guys to put on the outside, opposite Stephon Gilmore, put Bland back in the slot? Now, if Bland works out perfectly, great. You keep your trade asset, Trey Lance, and you potentially move him at the deadline. I've said for Mike Evans, but the way Baker Mayfield is playing, it doesn't look like, again, through 2 weeks, it doesn't look like that'll be the case. But it's obviously a brutal blow for Trevon Diggs. It's a brutal blow for Dallas. But the fact of the matter is, again, I think because of their depth at that position, I'm not going to say their defense isn't going to miss a beat, because he's a great player, undeniably. But I think they can still be the best defense in the NFL. I really do, because it all starts and ends with Micah Parsons. And what I've talked about throughout this week, and I think most would agree with me that today, whether or not you agree Micah Parsons or my man TJ Watt is the best player in the NFL, regardless of what your opinion is, the best defensive player in the NFL, I think it's those two and it's everybody else. With respect to Bosa, both Bosas, by the way, Garrett, Sauce Gart, whoever, Fred Warner, it's those guys and it's everybody else. Those guys can literally impact the outcome of football games. So Dallas, they still got that guy healthy. Knock on wood, he stays healthy. Micah Parsons, still got DeMarcus Lawrence. You still got Sam Williams. Actually, I don't know if Sam Williams is there right now, but you got good corners. Linebackers are solid. Dan Quinn is a brilliant defensive coordinator. Dallas is fine defensively. Now, had this been like CeeDee Lamb or somebody, I'd say, oh, they're in bad shape today. If CeeDee Lamb, God forbid, knock on wood for him, tore his ACL, now Dak has Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, like he's kind of back to square one in terms of what he has to work with. I remember that 2018 season, the weapons were atrocious until they traded for Amari Cooper. Like, Dak has to have CeeDee Lamb healthy. The Cowboys have to have CeeDee Lamb healthy. Otherwise, they have no number 1 and they can't go anywhere because they won't be able to score it consistently. Prayers for Trevon Diggs. Hope he gets better soon. Hopefully comes back in 2024 better than ever. God bless him that he got his contract. Was it 5 years, about $100 million, something like that? So he got paid. He's financially secure. He's good, which is great. And Dallas is deep at that position. And if they don't love where they're at after a few weeks, trade deadline, I think, is Halloween, if I'm not mistaken. You move Trey Lance. You've got a great trade asset. You move Trey Lance for a corner to a team that would like to try him out to start this, or for the second half of the NFL season. But Dallas is still, to me, in very good shape, if not great shape. I still think they're the third best team in the NFL with a strong argument to be the best. And I still have them getting to the Super Bowl. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.